My career chronicles. We're back again today, and what are we talking about today? We're talking about starting and building a career in data science stroke AI. And there is so much buzz about data science, and I am super excited to have my guest join me here today. Yep, Ese is right there. Yep. Welcome, Ese.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Can you hear me? How's the audio?
Yeah, everything looks fine from my end. Yeah. Is it okay from your end too?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. Yeah. So just before you join, I was just telling everyone here that, data science is the talk of the town now. And as a matter of fact, it's been described as the sexiest job of the 21st century. I mean, whatever that means. Anyway, we'll find out in this in the course of our conversation. And then along the line, AI came in. I mean, has always been there, but there has been this sudden, like, eclipse that sort of put it on the face of everyone. And like we usually say, whether you like it or not, it's going to affect you one way or the other. So you are better off liking it so that whatever effect it has on you, then at least you are able to manage it because it's having effect on career, it's disrupting industries, it's
All right.
disrupting government and every other thing. And right here with me, I have like a very wonderful guest who has been in this data science and AI space over the years and all the way from software engineering, working in one of the biggest companies, and so many things to talk about today. And I would just say, if you're ready, I am ready.
Yeah, I'm good.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you and welcome once again. And giving a shout
Thank
out
you.
to everyone that is joining us in this session live. And as we usually do, at any point in time, feel free to drop your question on the comment section. Feel free to tell us where you're joining us from, and then let's just keep the conversation as active as possible. And typically the way I usually start my conversation is I start from the very basics. I want to know where it all started. In short, this podcast has been nicknamed "How They Started for Career." So, because yeah, because if I go to your LinkedIn profile now, or anybody goes to your LinkedIn profile, it's going to say, "Oh, it's a Emuraye, oh, senior data scientist, IBM Consulting." But we all know that to every story there is an inside story. there, there is more to it than what is just seen on that profile. And actually,
Right.
that's what we love to talk about right on this podcast. So my first question to you is going to be, where did this all begin? Tell us about growing up. How was it? Did you play in the sand? Did you play in the river? Did you fight in your primary school? So that I just want to hear about growing up and then your schooling from that age and then up until what we have now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for having me, James. And it's my pleasure to be live with you on your podcast. So yeah, I guess it all started. Where do we start? Like, how far do you want to go?
As far as it's
so,
possible.
yeah, I was born in Delta State, Nigeria, particularly Warri. So I'm a full blown Warri boy. I'm a Warri.
Okay.
Um, I grew up in Warri, early childhood through to primary, secondary school. The first time I left Delta State was, my second time I left Delta State was when I went to write post UME. First time being after primary school, that's like elementary school year.
Mhm.
Uh, where I went to Benin City. So just to give you a full, give you some background that yes, I was born and I grew up in Delta State, don't worry. And then had my primary school, secondary school, that's like high school, in Warri as well. I went to my primary school was in Catholic Louis Northern Primary School, and the secondary school was College of Education Demonstration Secondary School in Warri. Um, yeah, and I post secondary school, I got admission into um, University of Port Harcourt, like in River State, where I studied chemical engineering for 5 years, maybe like 5 plus because of ASU strike. Um, and yeah, during that period, I'd always had right from time, even during while I was in school at my from secondary school, I always had like that. I was always that person that was curious about anything tech from primary school, even like in computer room and all that. So, um, but I think my choice for studying chemical engineering in University of Port Harcourt was born out of secondary school I was good in chemistry, and I think I was very good in math. So I thought chemistry plus math was chemical engineering. Um, Something I found out sooner than later on that that's not always the case, right? Chemical engineering, it's more of maybe a misnomer, I would say, because it's more of process engineering, right? And so, but that notwithstanding, while I was in school, like in university, I got exposed beyond just the academics. I got exposed to other parts of the industry as well as what and different communities in the school, particularly through as a Catholic, and so I was like very devout in church. And there's the Association of Catholic Engineering Students, which it's a group that had beyond just being a group of people that come together as engineering students. They also like have technical teams. So got exposed to like seniors, people that were ahead of me, and gave me the insight like, oh no, you have to have other skills beyond just your academics. So that changed a lot of things because in my second year I started actively and intentionally working on other things beyond just my academics, which in a way kind of affected my academics, but I would say they paid off because I was able to work with a lot of people, both in the organization ACES as well as um, um, other organizations like in the department technical interest team, which I was the head of in chemical engineering department in my fourth year, and then I became president of ACES as well in my final year, and also I did some during the course of my university days, like college. I also did an internship with Wando Marketing PLC in Lagos. When they opened the loop plant in like as an IT, right? They opened the loop plant in Marine Beach, Apapa. And so all of these experiences, I think a turning point for me was in my fourth year when after going for that internship, along with some other skills I think I've had, I started thinking, after school, do I really want to be a, practice chemical engineering? But I don't think I didn't think I took it really serious, but then I just wanted to explore other aspects of me like leadership, management, and started implementing some of it. So um, fast forward after graduation, I started doing a lot of things, right? Um, but I think I still was trying to play down the idea that I was actually going to build a career in tech. I still was exploring, chemical engineering. Even during service, I took exams to like, KPMG, which I was invited for interviews and all that. But it was actually in 2016, I think mid service, that I started really getting more interested in machine learning. Like I started hearing about machine learning and what's this AI, data science, and I took my first course with machine learning, Professor Andrew Ng's course on Coursera, Introduction to Machine Learning, and I was really cool with the maths, right? Like math had never been my problem. Engineering, mathematics, calculus, probability, I really enjoyed them. So I was really pretty cool with the math during the course, but um, the programming was kind of like a problem, and I was like, okay, so I think I've been running away from this for a while, and I still have to do assignments. I think for that course it required MATLAB, so um, I decided to, not just do programming for the case of passing the course, but learn programming and build, and I was about running up service, so you can't be in that limbo of learning all the time, right? You still have to do something. So I took the bold decision to give myself 2 years to see how what I can do in tech instead of looking for like other like jobs in other sectors. So with advice from my mentors like peers and friends, I was able to get like an internship that took me to like an incubator internship that took me um, to Akwa Ibom in Eket, and um, and I that was what gave me some foundation, gave me some time foundation to really learn web development and become like an associate software developer. Um, and after about a year plus working with the firm, working on projects, and building products, like doing some product management, product development, I still was yearning for my what I would call first love. I went back to machine learning, and this time I could implement things, I could understand everything I was doing. So um, beyond that, I also wanted to work during my service. I had carved out that uh, in 5 years' time, I wanted to see myself working in a big tech company. And so I didn't know how I want to get there. That was in 2016, but um, I wanted to be in the top 10% working in data and AI, and in a big company like globally. So those were like my DHAGs. I
No,
set for myself.
hold on a sec.
Yeah,
Let's do a little walk back. Let's talk about that epiphany moment, because here you are, fresh out of the university, probably in your 20s, and
right,
then maybe graduating top of your class, and then you
right,
have options with a degree in chemical engineering. Nigeria is Africa's number one oil producing company. A country. There is
right,
ExxonMobil, there is Shell, there is Chevron, there's all these big oil companies that, I mean, one way or in short, you actually intern with one. And
right,
then there are also the big consulting firm, which you actually did a test with one, KPMG, PwC. These are like the places where everyone is thinking about at that time. In short, these are like the elite places where the best of the country used to work.
right.
Nobody is necessarily talking about AI, data science at that time at your age. So, but here was an epiphany moment for you, and you're just in NYSC. You're going back to your first love. So, what influenced that epiphany moment? What influenced that epiphany moment? I want to just understand the mental model around that time. For you.
Yeah, I think for me it was more or less like you've done a lot of things and you start asking yourself, what do you want to do in the long term? Um, I think I had a couple months before going for service, like NYC, and I also had, and during my NYC also gave me time to think. And for a lot of Nigerians, we know that that's 1 year that you've done work in school, but it's also like 1 year outside of school where you have to really reflect, and you're on that part of self discovery as well. And for me, it was another opportunity to really think hard that, oh, is this really what I want to do in the long term? No doubt, no, there's nothing wrong with being a chemical engineer, but it was more or less like I worked in the plant, and I did well, and I had commendations. I had bosses that wanted me to come back, but I asked myself, right, like, do I really want to do this? Does it does it keep me like? Is this something that I think I'll get excited uh, every morning I wake up? I know this is cliche, right? Like, oh, this is passionate. I get passionate about it. I don't want to use that,
Yeah.
but I mean, and the money is good, right? Like, the money is enough to keep someone
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
maybe
good
happy.
money too.
But for me, it was more about optimizing all the factors, right? Like, what if I'm also in another sector where you can earn really well and you're still happy getting up in the morning to so that where's that sweet spot?
Hmm.
So for me, um, instead of putting a lot of pressure on myself that I had to figure it out all by the end of graduation, which I think a lot of young people um, do. I set myself on a lot of that this phase was more of self discovery phase rather than I had figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with um there's nothing wrong with people that figure it out. Like I always admire people that you figure it out right from when you're very young. But sometimes it's not always the case, right? So more importantly, you have to craft your own path and understand yourself. And so yeah, that was it. Like 2016 was a defining year for me. I set out to be more of like, well, let me experiment. Um, I was fortunate also to come from like I don't really care so much what people think in terms of okay, why are you not doing this? But I did care about like my parents, so I also intimated my mom like this is what I needed to do at this point. So I think besides that, the I just went on that part of discovering more and see if maybe this is for me, and I said that the rest is history.
Okay, cool. Okay, let's talk about, I think from that point, let's talk about moving to the US. Now you are excited about data science, and then you move to the US to do a master's in data science, and then getting to work for IBM. Was that necessary? Or let's just talk about how do you think all of this education sort of contributed to you being like building a career in data science? Did you need like the chemical engineering degree, all of those internship, and then doing a master's in the US? Did you need all of that, or how has that contributed to you building like or starting like a career as a data scientist? Let's talk about that briefly.
Yeah, so that's a good one. Like, I think I was just going on a long story, but I kind of hinted that, right? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
I had like a personal BHAG, right? Like when I mean BHAG, big Harry at Dasher School, um, back in 2016, also documented. I still have it in my books, even my diary, right? Like it was being in top 10% AI talent or data and AI talent by 2021, right? So that was like 5 years. I gave myself 5 years. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really sure about the path, but that was what I, set out for myself. Um, and so it started with, when I was working in Akwa Ibom in Code House. That's the name of the company. Um, I was working there, right? I was building products, but at some point, I still, even before I went to Kaibam, I had started applying to schools in the US because I felt like in order for me to get to where I want to, I would need I need to be in a place where I have the access.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the US is a big market. Um, the the it's difficult to get recruited from Nigeria. And so for me, it was more or less like if I want to get to where I want to get my target, like in that 2025, I need to be in a place where I'm able to, get to that, dream and or get to that goal. And so in 2018, I moved back to Port Harcourt and continued, full time applying for jobs, writing to the GRA and all that. And I saw having a graduate degree here in the US as a big like a step for me to get to where I want to get to. So that was the reason why. And there are a lot of people that have other routes, but for me then I think, with what I had then, I knew I had a good standing education academic wise, and I already had the skills from like, working for about a year and a half. So I needed to just put everything together.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, I was able to get admission, even if I didn't have a computer science degree. Got admitted into data science at George Washington University in DC. Um, when I arrived for my graduate degree, one of the things I think I did that helped me to answer, coming to your point, like it was like I wanted to get an internship. For me, it was a no brainer. I knew getting an internship would give me an insight into how the industry works here in the US.
Mm-hmm.
And so right from from the second month after I arrived in the US, I started, you know, spoke with a career advisor, revamping CVs, going for a recruiting event, Google event, and I was fortunate before the by December I started getting some feedback. Um, got reached out. I got sourced from like a Google recruiter as well as an IBM recruiter. Um, and the first IBM recruiter was for a front end role, which I didn't want. I wanted a data science role. And then I think sometime in January 2020, I got for like a data science role. And yeah, I was fortunate to be, I got did the test online. Was invited for an in-person interview. I was brought in from DC to New York, had the interviews, and I was given an offer like a week later. And yeah, that was how I got my foot in.
That was fast. I mean, fast. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we can call it
Yeah,
fast now, but like there is a lot that went on behind the scenes. Okay, let's
right,
take like a step backwards a bit and talk about data science and AI, because I mean, I love to approach things from first principles.
all
Because
right.
if we go, everyone is talking about data science, everyone is talking about AI. So what exactly is this data science? What exactly is this AI? What exactly does it mean? If you were to explain it to a 5-year-old, how would you explain it in the simplest, relatable way for everyone to understand what this whole thing is all about?
Yeah, so um, yeah, I would start from so when we say data or like data or data science, essentially it's making sense out of data. To give some background is that we are over the years, over the last decade, we are producing more data than we've ever produced almost in our lifetime because with the dot-com boom, the internet, back in 2000, and then we're now having multiple like computing devices, right? Mobile back in 2007. We have tablets, we have different computing devices, we have several systems and more businesses coming online, right? These are all, bringing about more data points, right? That if you properly harnessed can improve our systems. And so what has what really accelerated data as we know it, like data science as we know it, is that we need to make sense out of this data. And prior to maybe 2015, 2014, we didn't have as much compute as well as um, developed research to bring this insight out of data,
Mm-hmm.
and also not just bring the insight but also to make probabilistic predictions, that is models, to be able to achieve a particular result. And so data science is just essentially being able to study how to leverage data both for insights as well as to to achieve a particular goal, as well as make could be like making predictions, or when you set a particular objective, you're leveraging the study of leveraging data to achieve that objective. So whether you're just deriving insights or you're using those insights or using the data to make prediction on what will probably happen next, that's the study of data science. um, or that's what data science entails. Artificial intelligence on its own, it's uh, I would say the way we've actually seen it in the past is as a subset of data science, but somehow in computer science, depending on how you, you view it, it's separate. A separate study of how in computer science world, it's the study of giving or achieving intelligence in machines. So trying to attain human intelligence or human level intelligence in machines. And so this can be, what powers it is usually algorithms, and it also leverages data. So that's why you see data and AI, they are always, used interchangeably. Um, so that's like a summary of data and AI as we know. But AI is kind of like artificial intelligence as we see it today. It's broad because the application can vary from as little as prediction, Siri using your phone, and to robotics as well, right? So it's broad to like the application can vary across different industries, just like data analytics and as well as data science. So that's the summary.
Cool. And starting a career in data science, if you were think about your recent graduate self from the University of Port Harcourt, Nigeria, or you just finishing from high school or secondary school, as the case may be, if you were to start all over again, starting a career in data science, what will your pathway look like? What will your study plan or career plan look like now? I know there's a lot of things people do, certifications or self-study, but you've been around. I'm sure you've tested so many models. So if you were to start all over, what would your plan look like to be able to get into start a data science career?
Yeah, so I would say I think I would go for a maybe I'm more traditional in some sense, right? Like I'll definitely want to get the foundations of computer science first, either by traditional university setting or even just learning by myself, right? There's if you don't have the resources, you don't have to be in college. It doesn't have to be in college, but there are good courses, maybe on Coursera, Audacity, that you can even attend a full computer science degree um, online. But I believe that's one of it, right? The basics of it. Um, and that's something that sometimes people often take out, except maybe you don't want to become you don't want to become really have deep expertise in as a data scientist or machine learning engineer or AI engineer. If you want to be like a data analyst, you understanding how to use Power BI and other analytic tools as well as even Python, right, from a basic perspective, should be fine. However, if you want to like move to building models, becoming a machine learning engineer, an AI engineer, whatever name we want to call it, you need the foundation of fundamentals of computer science, data structures, algorithms, understand how they work. Um, you would also need to understand basic mathematics. So when I say basic mathematics, probability, statistics, um, linear algebra, very very important, and calculus, very very important. In fact, I'm going to reorder that: linear algebra, calculus, and probability and statistics. This will set you. I know a lot of people use APIs these days, like you don't have to build the models, but there are cases if you want to be like an AI engineer or a data scientist, there are cases where understanding how these models work, um, the architecture would differentiate you from others that are just using APIs. And in order for you to understand how these models work, you need to have some understanding of linear algebra, um, uh, calculus, and probability and statistics. Something also you can learn online from Khan Academy, right, and whatnot. And so I mentioned computer science fundamentals, math fundamentals, and then you have to pick an industry that you want to, and then of course programming, um, which is kind of tied to computer science aspect as well. But you need to be proficient in a particular language. Um, and then the last aspect I would say is choosing an industry, which is often not easy. Uh, you need to pick an area where you want to apply this knowledge. And so when you have this figured out, or it's fine if you don't have it figured out because sometimes it could be an exploratory phase, and you need to be aware that this is an exploratory phase and define it maybe for 2 years. I want to explore. Um, and then pick an industry and build expertise in industry, have some domain, having some domain experience or knowledge can or will it be important. Either maybe it could be in e-commerce, it could be um, in healthcare, it could be in public sector, it could be in whatever sector, right? You just have to pick one and you know try to drill down on it. So I'd say that is how I would approach it. Um, but the first learning phase, the fundamentals, those are things that you can learn online, and yeah, to get the skills to get started, you can acquire those skills.
All right. Okay. And I know that there is always this conversation around, let's talk about the data scientist toolkit. There is always this conversation around some of the programming languages, which one is the number one. Oh, at some point it was Java, and then it was JavaScript, and then Python. And then even within the data world, there's always this debate between using R or Python. There's always that debate. I know some people say, oh, R is for more academic things, oh, Python is more user friendly and all of that. But real quick, I want you to just talk about like the data scientist toolkit. What are like the tools you use day to day in the course of your job? And then how important are they? Which one is more important? I don't know if there's an order, but maybe you tell us that. Yeah, which one do you think is more important, in the order of those toolkit? And then how do you engage them in the course of your work every day?
Right. So I don't see that there is like a best toolkit like for like a data scientist. Rather, I would say that there is the best tool for the job. Um, and sometimes the project might require this toolkit or this tools, this toolkit, or it might differ from what is. So I won't say there is a best. However, I would say they are like what's more popular amongst different problem area. So if you're looking at econometrics and you know um, quantitative research, you would find that most people use R just because R has a robust. Um, I think the statistical packages in R it's more robust than I think Python, and so amongst econometrics, you're doing an econometric research or quantitative research, you would see that most of the people they use, it's quite popular. R is quite popular amongst that. However, if you are more on the software development aspect, right, that cuts across many industries, um, Python is way popular than R. Primarily because Python is also used for software development, so it's easier. So from the get-go, most of the frameworks that are being used in deep learning, like machine learning and AI, built with Python. So you have more tools. So it's not even a debate that Python is more popular than R, right? But it's just that the debate here is like which one is best. And I say that I don't think there is a best. There's no one size fits all. It all depends on where you're applying it. And yeah, so bringing it home now on day to day for me, my tool changes like depending on what I'm working on. Um, But at the tail end is that I use Python really often. So from the get go, I'm most familiar with Python or more familiar with Python than R. Even though I've used R before, like in projects and when I was back in school, I was like statistical consultant in the library. So people do come for like so I hold R workshops as well. But overall, yeah, Python is more popular in several applications. Most of the tools that we have, from PyTorch to TensorFlow to even now with generative AI, you have like all of the tools are built. Most of the tools are built with Python. All the models, OpenAI models. If you there's no one built in R. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Python.
All right. So probably that's my sign to go go back to my Python classes. And then
Yeah,
for someone watching
probably.
this too, that might also be your sign for you to go back to that your Python course you bought sometime and then you left you left in Udemy or Coursera. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then just to give a shout out to everyone that joined us live here, I really appreciate you taking your time to join us. And like we usually do, if you have any question right now, you are free to put it on the comment section. It says going to try to answer your question right live here now. So I just wanted to put that out there. Let's talk about working in IBM as a data scientist, a senior data scientist.
Yeah.
IBM consulting. IBM is what, last I checked, should be in the range of $250 billion valuation. That's like Nigeria's budget for last year or this year is like I think $60 billion, something like that in dollars. So it's like Nigeria's budget for like maybe 5 years, and then one company is worth that, and then
Yeah.
you are there working in that company, one of the biggest companies in the world. I really imagine what that feeling is. Everyone talks about working in big tech. Working in big tech is a dreamer's dream. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I imagine what it feels like to now be living that dream, not for 1 year, 2 year, 3 years now. So what feeling does that give you? What is it like? Are you having to, just talk about it? What is it like living that dream, or maybe from having that dream to living that dream? What is that journey like? What is that experience like?
Yeah, so it's been great. Like working with IBM. Started out as a grad intern, and yeah, I got a return offer to work full time. And one thing I want to say also as well is like there's this, I'll say, I won't call it a stigma, but there's this notion or perception that people have about IBM being a over 100-year-old company. So most of the things we do are very old, but um and you know but it's actually interesting, working as an intern and also still start working full time has been interesting, seeing that when you're inside, you tend to see things for yourself rather than what people are perceiving outside. And I guess maybe that's because I work in IBM consulting, which is
Mhm,
an arm of IBM that is client facing. And so because of that, we move faster than other like subsidiaries. And so because we have to stay competitive,
mhm,
which in itself it's kind of thrilling. So if you love the adrenaline um, and working in consulting, yes, you should be working in IBM consulting, even if it's not fun all the time. So to summarize my experience in IBM, it's been great. I've worked with really interesting teams. I've worked across multiple sectors, in communication sector, some of the big clients as well. Worked in the public sector with the government, and right now I'm working also in the healthcare
wow.
sector, like a healthcare industry over the last more than 1 year plus. Yeah, going to 2 years now. So it's actually interesting, seeing, solving problems, primarily solving problems, as I see myself first as a problem solver, and then what are the tools and techniques I need to solve this problem. So even if I'm a data scientist, primarily the way I see myself, it's, yeah, I want to solve a problem. I'm a problem solver. Where is the pain point in your company, or what pain point are we going to solve, and what are the best tools and the best solution for this. So it's been great. I've worked with like really incredible people, really
Mhm.
smart people, and I've had opportunity to work with and learn from these people. So uh, when you not, I don't know about the 250 billion valuation because I don't walk into maybe that's something I don't think often, right? Like I don't walk into the office thinking that, oh, this is a 250 billion valuation. Like I seriously, I didn't ever knew it was that. I know it's, yeah, it's like, it's a big firm that's been there for a long time, but I'm more interested in how I can, work with the client, solve problems, and take it to the next level.
Cool. A day in the life of a data scientist. I love that. Every time, a day in the life of a this, a day in the life of a that, a day in the life of a data scientist. So on Monday now, what is Monday going to look like for you? Is it predictable, or you talked about adrenaline here?
Yeah, so um, it could be fun some days.
Mhm.
It could be there are days where it's not. So when you say a day in the life, it's not predictable. So I'll give you a day. Let's do a recap actually. So a day in I'm just gonna use this previous week as an
Okay.
example instead of the coming week. Yeah, so I had my life planned out that you know what my normal day is. Fortunately, I'm working remote, so my client is in North Carolina, and I live here in New Jersey, so I don't need to go to the office. Or sometimes I do go to the client's location in North Carolina.
Mhm.
Um, and so I was just supposed to go have my morning meetings and um, run some checks typically, and have multiple meetings in a day, but um, I logged into like a drill in the sense that I noticed that we had an issue over the previous weekend that we had to the previous weekend, that's like last Saturday, I even had to come online to like troubleshoot an issue that we had in production on the client's system, and um, we had found a way to resolve it. Turned out that our resolution worked, but our validation, what we did for our validation, triggered another issue. And so by Monday, it wasn't just the issue we're trying to solve, but it had affected other systems. And so, which was really funny because normally the validation it's not supposed to, even after doing some post mortem report, that's the validation is something that we do every other day. But that day decided to just act funny, and so we spent the whole of Monday trying to like get all our systems back online, get everything processing, just so that we don't, get client offended. And yeah, that's what
That's the day.
that's what. And then with meeting cancellations, what we had all planned up that day, we had to cancel. Try
Yeah.
to um solve that issue, which took even not just beyond business hours, and I had to come back at night as well to like ensure that the thing was working. And yeah, so most of the things that we had planned on Monday, we had to move to Tuesday because we had to um put out that uh, put out that issue, like so resolve it. So I wouldn't say that's a typical day in the life of the data scientist, but I would say that you mentioned Monday, and I just wanted to give you what Monday looked like for me last week.
Yeah, I
Really.
like it. I mean, I like the uncertainty. I mean, again, not everyone thrives in ambiguity. I thrive in ambiguity. So, but that's not for everyone. Some people love predictability, but I mean, some I like ambiguity. You don't really know. You can't say for sure 100/100 or 10/10 that this is exactly how it's going to turn out. But
Be careful
I,
what you wish for.
okay,
Be careful
all
what you
right.
wish for.
Yeah, I know it can be a lot, but I feel like talking about this sort of gives people like a bird's eye view into what's happening, because then again, people may not really know. People may think, oh, a day in the life of a data scientist is all about you go, you write code from morning till night, and then on Friday you just close your laptop and you're like, I'm done. But you're talking about Saturday, having to just in the middle of a Saturday try to just take care of a situation. Let's talk about mentors briefly as we plan to round up. So, I mean, you were like both in terms of moving to the US, working in big tech. You were like the mentors to us. When I say us, the people I'm talking about. And I'm sure you also have people like you look forward to there, in terms of both career and other aspects of life. But
All right.
then let's narrow it down to career. How has that, or have you actually leveraged that? How have you leveraged it, and how has that actually been setting you up, or set you up for building your career as a data scientist?
Right. So I would say mentor, role models, I don't know how to put it. Maybe they are different, but yes, I've had both. Um maybe I had few mentors, but I had a lot of role models, people that I look up to, and I think that's who I learn from. And um, in the context of a career, maybe not direct mentors per se, because I think um, I've had few, like, like I mentioned back then in University of Port Harcourt, like through ACES, I was able to have a lot of connect with a lot of our alumni members, and always had discussions about career, which influenced how I saw, you know, life after school back then. And this was way back, like it was like I think more than 10 years now. Yeah, oh my God.
Time
So
flies. I know.
right, so these people, like, there are still some of them I'm really like, they're now grown from just not just being mentors but now friends.
Mhm.
And I think they've gotten me to the part where I'm now, even back then, some of them were the ones that encouraged me to, even if you're doing well in Nigeria, sometimes you need to be in a place that you can maximize your potential. And so even when I started entertaining the thought of, just remaining back home and doing what I need to do, even finding a remote job, some of them, very close ones, and having a support system, we're like, oh yeah, I think you should still go for this. So yeah, they've been, in terms of direct, like, at different point, I would say I had different mentors depending on, in my career, depending on what I was looking for. So, and currently, even in my job role, like in IBM, I still have people that are way up there, like distinguished engineers, and so, right, that uh they've reached the highest level of technical uh, leadership in IBM. I still, connect with them to say, oh, this is the path I want to take, right? So if this is the path, this is where I want to be. How, like, get them involved, and some of them are like, really interested to see what you do, and they like what you do, and they want to support you. So having a supportive community, it's really important, and whether they come in the form of mentors directly or role models that you can just mirror the way they live their lives. I think those are things that have at different point helped me to like move to the next step I want to move to.
Cool. I like that. And let's talk about the you talked about leadership here. Let's briefly just talk about because people always try to find this balance between technical skills or technical leadership and then the other side of the whole thing. But I know technically, data scientists, you talked about knowing Python, R, and all of that. Is it just about that? What other skills, especially soft skills, supportive community? Okay, I see that comment. Thank you, Kingsley. Supportive community and mentorship, very powerful. Might, yeah. And thank you, Kingsley, for joining. I appreciate it. Yeah. And but I wanted you to just talk about like the other skill set that is necessary, especially soft skills, because there is always this contention people have with technical people or engineers. They're like, oh my God, you can't just be a very great engineer, but you cannot communicate well. What are like the most important ones that you see and then you've been using? Because especially since your role is like client facing, so it's both like you need to do everything like a customer service person needs to do while still having all the technical depth. I wonder what is that it looks like actually.
Yeah, so there are many things, right? Like, and that's one thing that, as an entry level, maybe data scientist, engineer, um, your skills, like your technical skills, will get you into, and some other soft skills like being able to work with others, communication. But in order for you to move to, like, the next level in technical leadership, you need more than that, right? And there's always, um, you have to, if your goal is to attain, there are some people that are just okay with becoming individual contributors and they don't want to ascend, and that is fine.
Mhm.
But if it's your objective, like if it's your goal to ascend, like, move up the ladder in technical leadership, there are definitely other things you have to put into play beyond your technical skills. And that is where it becomes really interesting, because it's more or less like you are you are trying to, so I'm going to use an analogy, and pardon me if you don't have like math background, but I'll try to explain again. It's like you're trying to fit different variables into like you're trying to fit an equation. You have an equation, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're an entry level, right, you have an equation. Maybe it could be a linear equation, right? You just have maybe one independent variable, and how many, or two, or quadratic, it's like two independent variable. But as you move up, right, like the things that are required, it becomes more complex, right? It becomes a polynomial, right? And you it becomes harder to fit that equation, right? And I know this is becoming to kind of like geeky, but there are more variables that come into play, and you need to that's where optimization now comes in. Like you need to
Yeah.
now optimize to ensure that you have the right parameters that will fit that equation. And it becomes, instead of a straight line, it becomes
Yeah.
really
It's complicated. It gets
complicated
complicated.
and
Yeah.
all that. And if it were a straight line, everybody would have done it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it becomes a lot more easier. So using that analogy, some of the other variables that comes into play beyond it being like a simple linear equation, right? For you have, beyond your core skills, you need to become deeper in a particular area. You need to become a special, like someone like his subject matter expertise in a particular area. Um, so that's one. There is the element of, of course, team leadership, project management that comes into play. You don't have to be the project manager, right? But you need to know how to, scope projects, product roadmap, you know, if you're solving a solution, you have to know how to break it down and take it piece by piece. You need to, what methodology like are you using in your team? Is it agile or is it waterfall? And how you are, because that would also help you work with whoever is the business analyst on the team, right? And you also need um to, like I said, so that's on, moving on to the soft skills aspect, right? You need those aspects like, product management, and then more importantly, the business, right? So whatever tool you are bringing, whatever aspect, like whatever solution you are building, how does it affect the business? You need to learn how to manage stakeholders. You manage down and you manage up, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
when I say manage up and down, it's like if you have, of course, if you're a technical leader, you have people that you are mentoring, right, in a team. But and so you have to manage them, right? Learn how to lead. But more importantly, the people up there, you need to communicate whatever you're doing, right? And you need to as well manage all stakeholders. So stakeholder management is really important. And so these are some of the things that, interestingly, you have to do it before you attain the official role. So if you're an entry level engineer, you have to start showing potential for becoming like a tech lead. And
Mm-hmm.
so what are you doing as an entry level engineer or data scientist that shows that given this tech lead role, you'll be able to do it very well?
Right. Right.
So you need to know how you organize things. You need to take initiative, right? You need to be able to see things before they happen, not like, being proactive. So these are the few of the many other variables that come into play when you want when you are keen on ascending that technical leadership route.
Thank you very much, Ese. This has been a very interesting conversation, and I really wish we can go on and on and on and on and on, but we are running out of our time. But so I'm just going to ask this last question that I usually ask. What did we not? Did someone just ask question coming from DevOps engineering? Where can I start from if I want to pursue a career in machine learning or MLOps? Yeah, that's, I think let's deal with that question. I wanted us to round up, but this question just jumped in now. Coming from DevOps engineering, where can I start from if I want to pursue a career in machine learning or MLOps? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good one. Like if you're in DevOps and you're like a DevOps engineer and you want to like move into um, MLOps, and like what would become a machine learning engineer. Um, Couple of things I would say. Ask yourself like, what is the requirements of a MLOps, right? I'll go from the general perspective of things like some of the strategies I did before coming directly to like giving a direct response. So, like I mentioned, when I joined my when I came to the US, I I was looking at, I wanted to be a data scientist, and one of the things I did in my career advisor was I knew what I wanted, right? And it's good this person knows what they want. And what one of the assignments she gave to me was to go to the companies I wanted. So like I went to Meta, I went to Facebook. Sorry, then it was just Facebook.
Mhm.
Um, I went to Google, I went to Amazon. These are the different companies. And I took the job description of what a data scientist was and compared them to see if there was any correlation and looked at the skills they were looking for. And then I tailored them to things that I was looking at just to ensure that I'm in sync with what they're doing, right? Or I'm heading in the right direction. And the areas that I was lacking, I started working on them so that, I'm in a very good fit. So, first thing I would want to say is the being an ML ops engineer, one thing I understand, like especially like a machine learning engineer, it varies from one firm to another because a lot of things are not standardized yet. But the general consensus is like what an ML ops engineer does is to deploy models and manage models, like monitoring and all that. So you need to understand how these models work. You need to understand how to deploy models. You need to understand basics. Understand. You have to have a basic understanding of what these models are, like how these models work. So that's the first thing I would say, right? In order to transition. So what that would mean is get int- an introduction to machine learning course, and then from there pick up more recent AI, like LLMs, how to deploy LLMs, and then start building little projects. You don't need to use the cloud, like you could even just use open source tools to like build a simple cycle of like deployment of a model, right? And then you can now also like transit to the cloud, but you want to build projects. And then um you can now transit to like um monitoring, right? Model drift. So what I mean by model drift, those are some of the things that an ML ops engineer does, right? Um, is it does this model needs to be trained, and how often does it need to be trained? As the data drifted from what is supposed to be? Those are some other complexities that comes with monitoring. So essentially, it's deploying models, maintaining models, monitoring models, and you're not really developing the models, but it's more like setting up the infrastructure for these, as well as the deployment, setting up the infrastructure, the deployment, as well as monitoring. So these are like three key areas. So I would say focus on building your expertise in these three areas. And in order to do that, you have to start with the foundation, which is if you don't understand machine learning, what it means, and LLMs, you need to, and then build your expertise in these three areas, and then compare with what MLOps like. Look at the top companies and look at the companies you want to work for, and what they require an MLOps to do, and make sure that you tick all the boxes. Even if you end up not working for them, it means that you are industry standard,
Mm.
and that would help you um, be in that position, even if you decide ending up working up for another company. And I totally get the confusion sometimes, like whoever asks this question, because sometimes some of these rules are not. I mean, they are still evolving, and it's difficult to like know exactly what is required to learn them. But I think if you want, like I mentioned, get the basics, build little projects, get the mastery across these three areas of deploying, monitoring, and setting up the infrastructure, which I think you already should do as a DevOps engineer. Um, I think, and then comparing with industry standard, I think you give it a year maximum, you should be able to like transit well.
Flash word for me or phrase for me is even if you don't end up working for them, you'll become industry standard. Yeah, I really like the way you put that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
It's very
really like the way you put that because I go to Microsoft, I'm like, okay, this is what someone in Microsoft does. And then I aim to have all of that skill. And even if I don't end up working for Microsoft, that means I've already gotten myself skill wise to that level. And that means I can get into some other place. Thank you so much for that
yeah.
answer. And thank you. Yeah, you wanted
And
to share something?
and the reason why I said two, three, four companies is that if company A, B, C, which are like almost industry standard, as if all three, four, five of them are saying the same thing or requiring the same thing, statistically there is like a probability that that is what is required for these areas. So
Mhm.
you are better off, becoming industry standard when you compare with multiple companies than just maybe one or two companies. So
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. And I was about to round it up by asking you to tell us what question would you want me to ask that I did not ask, or what other thing do you want to talk about that I didn't talk about? Just any other thing. What they call it, final words, kind of.
not really. I think yeah, the questions were good. I mean, the only question I was expecting, and I think I've always gotten from most um most maybe like podcasts or like armor section I've been invited in to, it's the fear of AI. So I was surprised that,
Oh, yeah.
and are we approaching Skynet?
Are we all losing our
And
jobs?
are we all losing our jobs? So
Yes,
I'm
please.
glad that did not come in. Oh, I thought we're done. Right.
Well,
So
if you still have a job, it means we are not losing our jobs.
yeah. So, but yeah. So the thing is, I don't know if do you want me to answer?
Yes, please.
So I'm
I'm sure
asking, my putting
someone's
myself
always
out
curious
there. I'm
about
shooting
it.
myself in the foot. Okay. So yes and no. Right.
Yeah.
So there are some jobs that yes, definitely we at this point we have to be sincere with ourselves. There are a lot of jobs that AI is going to like or has and currently it's because of AI and automation generally. Um, AI is just a tool. Data like machine learning, they are just the tools and techniques, right? The real bone point is automation. Like it's AI is making automation really powerful. And yes, there are jobs that are being, it's not a thing of it will, it's already happening right within us, right? Like, there are jobs that 10 people used to, that would require 10 people in to work on. And now with just intelligent tools, intelligent automation, and just three persons, you'll be able to get better, job done. So it is happening. However, what I would say is I don't see it. Um, I mean, this whole thing happened as well when the internet happened back then in 2000, like the dot com boom, like, oh, computer will come and take our jobs and everything, right? One thing I would do say is that new jobs are being created. And one thing I know it's not easy. We are now in the knowledge information technology, right? World, right? Like I was speaking with one day, this was like last year or 2 years ago. My mom was saying that she has a lot of empathy or sympathy for our generation because you can't, it's almost impossible for you to just say, oh, I want to be a doctor and be a doctor for life, right? You almost would have like two three careers at different points, and it's difficult to keep up with. And she was like, oh, she doesn't even know how, because sometimes she still marvels the way I was able to like switch from like chemical engineering and now I'm doing data science, and God
Yeah.
knows what will happen in the next 1 year or two. But the point is, that is the reality, right? You have to, your adaptability quotient is becoming really important rather than just your IQ, your AQ. Like how do you adapt? How fast do you adapt in your career? And it becomes really important. So the people that are using AI are the ones that are displacing the jobs, not necessarily AI. The question is, what side of the divide do you want to be? Do you want to be on the side that, oh, AI is taking out our jobs, or you want to be on the side of people using AI are taking our jobs?
What side do you want to be? What a way. What a question. That's the kind of question you're like, okay, let me think about it. And Kingsley says, oh my God, do we have some time? Kingsley says, not sure if we still have time. Yeah, you are actually not sure. Yes, because we don't. Speaking about leadership variables in the tech industry, how can an individual increase their visibility in the workplace without resorting to mere eye service? Yes. Thank you
Oh,
for this question. I think I need the answer to myself.
okay.
Yeah, what's the balance between getting visibility and not looking like a snitch or you are doing eye service? It can be tough,
Yeah,
but let's
that's a
pray for
good
mercy.
one. That's a good one. And yeah, this is not an easy one because it's, again, I would say within this variable, there are other variables. Yeah, so it's a great question because your visibility matters, right? In order for you to, get, and there are a lot of, I would even say that luck plays a big factor in this, right? You can be working in a team that everyone, it's like, there is credit for everybody's work, and there is, the team leadership wants, they're eager for the team members to grow, and so they ensure that your contributions are being seen at the top, and it's it's sometimes the major differentiating factor between how far you have been, how visible you are, and not just even being on a visible project, a visible team, but your contributions being visible is different, right? You can be working on a project or in a team that it's always in the news, but your own work, you're not getting the credit that, oh, you're the one that I would have to fight and say, oh, I worked on this project, without the team leadership always, putting you out there that, oh, this person played this role in getting this, or your manager advocating for you. So there is no straightforward answers to like, oh, this is a nail way you have to do it. But there are things that you can do to maximize your visibility, which is one, first, trying to be in like high impact projects. Like, y- how, what projects are you working on? The more the project you are working on that has, the more impact that project has in overall company, the less in code I would say you have to do. Because even when you're doing your maybe like performance review and you're meeting others and you're networking, just by the mere mention of, oh, I was with this team that did this, right? It gives you like, oh wow, are you serious? Like, it gives, perception matters, right?
Mhm.
And so it gives you that credibility, right? It improves your credibility, right? So that's one thing that it's close to you being in control of, which all the time it's not the case, but you can try to, fight your way to get into those high impact projects. Make sure that you're working on high impact projects. Secondly, you, of course, you have to bring your A game. Even if they are not high impact projects, you have to bring in your A game. Like, these are like basic. I think that's the number one, even, right? You have to bring your A game whenever you are, because you can, in quote, turn like a high low impact project or a project that is not high impact to a high impact project, right? You have to be the one that, the perception of you in within everybody that comes in contact with you is that of credibility. And even, you know it becomes, this point is really important because you come to a case where you're speaking with, when your name is being mentioned in rooms about like, what are people saying, what is your personal brand within the company, right? And so your A game is very important, even in those products that you think is not low impact, because sometimes those ones will lead to the high impact ones.
Mhm.
And so when one senior leader talks to that senior leader, I say, oh, I'm considering bringing this guy to my project. Do you know this guy? Oh no, yeah, this guy did this and all that and all that. So you have to bring your A game even to those projects that you think are not high impact. And then secondly, try to fight your way into those high impact game. Fortunately, it's what it is. But yeah, then when you are in those projects, you still have to, like, ensure that you get feedback from your teammates. I don't know, like different companies, they have different ways they get feedback. Document your work during your performance review. Like always have that conversation with your manager. And if you need to go for events that these things are happening, right? And if there are if there are avenues like for you to um do things like hackathon and all that, like you attend, it's not there's no straightforward way, right? But the idea is that you want to work on high impact projects. You want to have working teams that that people can support you, not because they think that, oh, I need this, like not necessarily eye service, but there are people that genuinely want you to succeed. You need to identify those people and make them your support community and always update them, even those that are above you, right? So it's more like they should be part of your journey. They want to feel part of your journey. So if you've been able to get that recognition, right, carry them along and let them feel, let them get that feeling that they are part of your journey, right? And they would take you as your own. And that's the only way they will be able to speak in rooms where you're not even in, because that is very important. Like you always will not be there. Like people say things, right? But what do they say? If and the sweet spot you want to be in it when maybe three senior leaders, like I said, or even not maybe not senior leaders, and you're talking about, oh, I'm working with this guy. Say, oh, I know this guy. Oh, he's this, and all that, right? Like, he's really good and all that. So but if what they are saying is, oh no, this guy is, shitty, and this is not the kind of person I want to work with, or he's not a team player, or he's not really good at what he does. So even those in quote low impact projects, you want to be, um, you do not want to um, bring down your, you also want to be excellent at it. So like, to do a recap, like some of the things, I know there can be more, but first, like, you want to bring your A game to everything in terms of a delivery, in terms of other things at work, what you need to do at every point. You want to target those high impact projects. And even if you don't get those ones, you also want to be in a team, having a team that celebrates that its culture is healthy, which maybe in corporate America is not easy to see, but it, culture is healthy, that they want to celebrate you, and you have mentors in that you're always updating, that they feel like they're part of your journey. Those are very helpful, because more often than not, some of these mentors, they've been in your shoes and they understand. They also want to identify people that are good, that they can be part of their journey. So if you can prove to them that you can be that kind of person, they'll be happy to. So these are some of the variables that you can put in place. But yes, there's a lot of luck that comes in as well. But yeah, you don't need to be like, play dirty politics to get that, but you have to do what you can within your yeah within your control to maximize this your success. So those are some of the points I'll make, but I don't know if it answers your question, Kingsley, because this is not an easy. It varies from one firm to another, like the culture
Yeah.
of the company and how things work. You need to also understand it, right? So
Okay, Kingsley, and every other person, wishing us great visibility on our low and high impact projects as we begin the new week and beyond. And as we round up, as we typically do over here at My Career Chronicles, coffee or tea for you?
see,
Tea. All right. And that is it. Thank you very much, Ese. And thank you for, I think I had a great conversation. Thank you for your time. And I really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Kingsley, I see your shout out. Yeah, thank you too for joining. And thank you for every other person that joined. And I appreciate it, and have a great day ahead. Bye bye.
yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, have a great week, and
All right. Bye.
bye.